Digital Kryptonite, how short form videos, memes, and other quick hitting content are eroding our cognitive abilities. Something that many of us are having to contend with these days is Facebook, for instance, is placing more emphasis on stories and reels, as well as Instagram and YouTube with their shorts, and TikTok, of course. I'm Ben Ufana, and be sure to look below, click like and subscribe. And anyway, let's dive into it. Oh, I will say too, in the vein of many of my favorite academics and journalists, I will be referring to my article that I'm just completing here because I've packed in so much detailed information, so it would be damn near impossible to crank out articles at the rate I do and at the same time internalize it so I could deliver it all on video. But anyway, let's get into it. So these days, with the simple act of pulling out your phone, we're instantly rewarded with this flood of content that's algorithmically configured to align with our interests and preferences, giving us a quick fix, a little reward. But what happens as we binge on this endless stream of bite-sized videos and other short-form content? Is it really harmless? Or could there be more significant consequences for our mental health and well-being and our cognitive functioning? You see, there's growing concern about how all these platforms are impacting us, both mentally, developmentally. For many, binge watching short form content leads to difficulties engaging in any activity or interaction that doesn't provide immediate gratification. And this phenomena is partly due to the instant gratification model that social media platforms such as TikTok and Instagram and Facebook are built upon. And these platforms are all designed to deliver quick hits of dopamine, a neurochemical essential for motivation and reward. And that makes them incredibly addictive. This cycle of quick rewards compels us to keep reaching for our phones, checking our feeds, and scrolling for longer and longer in order to recapture that feeling of pleasure. What many fail to comprehend is that the algorithms driving these platforms are specifically engineered to exploit our interests, preferences, and emotional triggers. TikTok's sophisticated algorithm and short form video format allows us to consume vast amounts of content in a short period of time, feeding our craving for instant gratification. Conversely, platforms like Facebook keep us engaged by presenting content that elicits strong emotional reactions, such as anger or fear, further fueling our addictions and extending our screen time. However, the convenience and excitement of these platforms comes at a cost. Short form video content can harm our brains, impeding our ability to focus, increasing impulsivity, and reducing our capacity to learn and remember. Additionally, rapid fire content consumption contributes to a range of issues such as irritability, heightened anxiety, and depression, difficulty in managing our emotions, and disrupted sleep patterns. Over time, the constant pursuit of instant gratification can lead to a rewiring of our brain's reward system, causing us to constantly crave quick rewards instead of engaging in sustained, effortful activities that encourage growth and development. The surge in short form content like TikToks and Reels and Shorts has significantly altered the way that we engage with information and, more importantly, with ourselves. And these platforms, they're designed to capture our attention with rapid bite sized clips, pulling us away from deeper and more meaningful engagement. And the constant barrage of quick and easily digestible content disconnects us from our deeper selves and diminishes our capacity for self awareness. Instead of encouraging introspection and growth, we're becoming accustomed to skimming the surface, which leads to a superficial understanding of the world around us, as well as of ourselves and our own experiences. As we become more distracted by short form content, our ability to focus on long form content, our engaged in deep, meaningful self reflection erodes. Our diminished attention span makes it increasingly difficult to connect with our core selves or to access, understand, and process our own emotions deeply. For those of us who are practitioners of the healing arts, this can make things especially challenging because fewer people recognize the need for genuine healing or seek the depth of care necessary for true personal growth. They're more likely to look for quick fixes and superficial solutions rather than engaging in sustained effort required for meaningful transformation. The unfortunate thing is that we all risk becoming more disconnected, not only from each other, but from our own inner worlds. And this digital shift is pushing us towards a shallow existence, prioritizing immediacy and superficiality over the profound work of understanding ourselves and the world we inhabit. The consequence is a society less capable of deep thought, emotional regulation, and authentic personal growth, qualities essential for a truly fulfilling life. We'll dive more deeply now into how social media hijacks our brain's biochemistry. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter that drives us towards novelty and surprise and the thrill of being on an exciting path, fuels our sense of anticipation and readiness, pushing us to look and seek and explore new experiences. But this is why social media, especially platforms like TikTok, can be so addictive, as they keep us in a constant state of seeking the next hit of excitement, the next new thing that will give us a dopamine rush. On the other hand, you have serotonin, which plays a very different role within our brains and bodies. When serotonin levels are high, we're more likely to feel content, satisfied, and at peace with what we have in our immediate surroundings. Serotonin encourages a state of comfort and well being, reducing our need to constantly seek out new stimulus. The overactivation of the dopamine pathways through our use of social media can leave us feeling restless and dissatisfied and perpetually in search of the next exciting thing, often at the expense of our overall well being. And while dopamine and serotonin are crucial players in our brain's rewards and well being systems, there are other neurotransmitters that come into play here. Norepinephrine, often associated with the body's fight and flight response, increases alertness and arousal. Excessive social media use, especially content that provokes strong emotions like fear and anger, can lead to an overproduction of norepinephrine, contributing to heightened stress and even chronic fatigue. GABA, also known as gamma aminobutyric acid, is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that helps calm the brain, reducing anxiety and promoting relaxation. But overstimulation from constant exposure to social media reduces GABA activity, making it harder for us to relax and unwind. Now, the endorphins are our body's natural painkillers and mood enhancers, often released when we're physically active, laughing, or connecting with other people. While social media can sometimes trigger the release of endorphins, for instance, when we get likes or someone shares our post or comments on it, these effects are fleeting and can lead to an unhealthy dependence on external validation rather than engaging in healthier and more sustainable activities such as working out or spending time outdoors or being with friends and family. Cortisol, although not a neurotransmitter, is a hormone and it plays a significant role in how we respond to stress. But constantly being on social media, especially when we're exposed to all this negative content and we're comparing ourselves to other people, tends to elevate cortisol levels, leading to chronic stress and anxiety. I want to talk now about the impact of short form content on the various regions of the brains. The nucleus accumbens is a key player in the brain's reward circuitry, and it's heavily involved in the release of dopamine. When you receive likes and comments, or you see content that is pleasing to you, the nucleus accumbens is activated, and that reinforces the behavior, making it more likely that we're going to continue to seek out more of these rewards. And over time, this can become incredibly addictive as our brain becomes conditioned to seek out constant stimulation and validation. The amygdala is responsible for processing a range of emotions, especially like fear and also pleasure. But the rapid emotionally charged content on platforms like TikTok contribute to anxiety and emotional dysregulation. As the brain becomes more reactive to short, intense bursts of information. The hippocampus is crucial for both forming and also retrieving memories, but excessive use of social media, especially with all this fast paced content, can disrupt the functioning of the hippocampus, leading to difficulties with memory formation and retention. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex is involved in executive functions like decision making, attention, and impulse control. And heavy use of short form content can weaken its ability to function, reducing our ability to focus on sustained tasks and to make thoughtful decisions, and resist the temptation to keep scrolling indefinitely. This decline in executive function contributes to the compulsive use of TikTok and Instagram. That's why we keep scrolling indefinitely, as our ability to regulate our behavior diminishes. The striatum, and particularly the ventral striatum, is involved in habit formation and the repeated behavior of checking our social feeds for the quick dopamine hits can ingrain these habits deeply in the striatum, making it difficult for us to break the cycle of constantly checking and scrolling. The medial prefrontal cortex, a region of the brain involved in decision making, self regulation, and social behavior, is heavily affected by excessive social media use and constant exposure to rapidly changing content. And the instant feedback loops can overstimulate this area, leading to difficulties with impulse control and a reduced capacity to process complex emotions and social cues. And over time, this can diminish our capacity for empathy and self reflection, contributing to emotional dysregulation and increased anxiety. The anterior and medial thalamic nucleus, which plays a crucial role in memory formation and emotional regulation, is also impacted by our heavy use of these platforms. Frequent exposure to fragmented, fast paced content can disrupt the neural pathways involved in maintaining emotional stability and memory retention. This disruption can lead to difficulties with concentration and focus, as well as increased susceptibility to mood disorders like depression and anxiety. Now, here's something that I and many of you will find a bit shocking, but brain shrinkage associated with gambling addiction offers the striking parallel to the cognitive and neurological impacts of excessive consumption of short form media content, such as TikToks and YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and Facebook Stories. And this is a condition that many are referring to now as TikTok brain. Both gambling and the frequent use of short form media heavily exploits the brain's reward system, particularly through the release of dopamine, which reinforces repetitive behaviors and creates addictive patterns. And over time, these behaviors can lead to structural changes in the brain, including a reduction in gray matter volume. In gambling addiction, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision making, impulse control, and emotional regulation, can shrink due to constant engagement in high risk, high reward scenarios. Similarly, the fast paced short form content of TikToks, Reels, Shorts, and Stories can overstimulate and stress the prefrontal cortex, leading to difficulties in focusing and making decisions and controlling impulses. The brain becomes conditioned to expect quick rewards, weakening the regions responsible for sustained attention and critical thinking. Additionally, both gambling And excessive use of short form content can affect the ventral striatum, a key part of the brain's reward circuitry. In gambling, this area becomes less responsive to natural rewards, pushing us to seek out more intense stimulation. Similarly, those of us who are heavy consumers of TikToks and Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Stories may experience a desensitization, making slower paced activities feel less rewarding and causing us to constantly seek out quick, novel content that can further strain our brain. The cumulative effect of these changes is a form of cognitive atrophy, where our brain's ability to engage in complex thought, sustained attention, and emotional regulation is diminished. Just as gambling addiction can lead to noticeable brain shrinkage and cognitive decline, so too can excessive consumption of short form content like TikToks and Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook Stories. This overuse results in a similar kind of brain shrinkage characterized by decreased gray matter in key regions associated with cognitive and emotional well being. As I mentioned previously, TikToks and Reels and other short form content are all designed to be highly engaging, often capitalizing off rapid and dynamic changes to keep us hooked. But the problem with all this rapid fire content is that it is eroding our attention span, making it harder for us to engage with longer and more demanding content, such as long form video, reading a book, completing homework assignments, or even focusing on work related tasks. Short form content provides immediate rewards in the form of instant gratification, reinforcing our preference for quick, effortless consumption of information over deep and meaningful engagement that makes us impatient. It conditions us to expect instant gratification in other areas of our lives. But a huge problem with that is it can seriously impede our growth, especially when it comes to critical thinking, creativity, and emotional intelligence. All this rapid consumption of surface level content makes it harder for us to think critically or to self reflect. It also makes us more susceptible to accepting information at face value without checking for its veracity. Our consumption of all this short form content adversely impacts our ability to manage our own emotions. And the rapid shifts between different types of content, whether humorous or shocking or emotional, or in some instances even violent, can have an emotionally destabilizing and desensitizing effect. And for some, the constant exposure to the curated highlights of other people's lives feeds the tendency for destructive self comparison, which over time diminishes self esteem and contributes to an underlying sense of inadequacy. Also, focusing too much on likes and views and followers can make us care too much about getting attention rather than just being true to ourselves. And this can leave us feeling disconnected from who we truly are. It leaves us always looking for validation from others instead of finding satisfaction from within. Our consumption of reels and shorts and TikToks and other rapid fire content is playing a huge role in terms of how many of us perceive the world and relate to current events and broader societal issues. And the preference for all this bite sized information contributes to an overly shallow understanding of complex issues. Important news and social issues are often oversimplified, resulting in a distorted or incomplete perspectives that lack sufficient understanding of the issues impacting our lives. An extensive consumption of short form content is also impacting the way we perceive and relate to and interact with others. Quick interactions in digital engagement translate into more superficial relationships. Deep, meaningful conversations require time and effort, which can be undermined by the fast paced nature of all the digital media we're ingesting. Circling back around here, the algorithms of social media are designed to exploit one of the most powerful ways to keep us scrolling and consuming more short form videos and other content. and that is intermittent variable rewards. It's the same principle that slot machines are designed to work upon. What that means is we never know when we're going to hit the jackpot. For that reason, we keep scrolling and scrolling until we see something that catches our attention. But eventually, we reach a point where we're scrolling and scrolling on TikTok and other social media platforms, not because we're enjoying it, but because we feel compelled to do it, almost without knowing why. But at that point, it becomes a compulsion rather than a source of fulfillment. And after a while, we can't help but wonder, why am I still doing this? The rapid scrolling, hitting the like button, and cruising through content quickly rewires our brains, overstimulating and tiring them out, leading to fatigue. And as we crave this constant stimulation, our brain becomes accustomed to these short form videos, turning them into an addiction. When the dopamine reward circuitry kicks in, it makes us feel good, but it also creates a neurological loop that's hard to break. In combating the addictive nature of social media, one effective strategy is to set a timer and to limit ourselves. By consciously managing our screen time, we can break the cycle of endless scrolling and regain control over our attention and our well being. To counteract the negative effects of social media on our brains, it's crucial for us to step away from the screen and to engage with the real world. I'm encouraging you to seek out dopamine hits through activities that truly enrich your life. Pursue your passions, connect with people face to face, immerse yourself in the experiences that bring genuine joy and fulfillment. To the best of your ability, it's important to you to find fulfillment in the real world. And by doing so, you can begin to restore balance to your brain's reward system and cultivate a healthier and more meaningful life. I've posted the link to the more detailed article itself below this video in case you happen to be seeing it on YouTube. So click on that link, read the more detailed article, and if you haven't already done so, click like and subscribe. And thank you for joining me today.